there's a struggle around the language of gangs and the gang narrative, which probably falls back before I became involved in the joint enterprise work. It followed on from the EGYV strategy, Theresa May's strategy in 2011, 2012. Um, Quite significant strategy, which was a response to the shooting of Mark Duggan and then the riots that took place. So the killing of a black individual in London led to a gang strategy, which then resulted in the criminalisation of more and more black and brown children. So I think it's an important point to make. I also think the reference to Gooch and Donington's a really interesting one, maybe a lad from Manchester, and recognising how that narrative was constructed within particular communities. And whilst violence may take place within particular communities, I would argue it's only in black and brown communities where that discourse is then shifted towards gang narratives. So it's in the presence of black communities that we will speak about gangs, whereby the same violence which takes place in other non-black communities is never defined and described as gang behaviour. We know across London that only, this is MOPAC figures, 5% of all homicides are thought to be gang related. We would never believe that by looking at the papers and the ways in which they frame black and brown folks as gang involved. So there's something really, we have to see the gang narrative as a resource, as a device. For this Nisha Waller's work, it's a conviction maximizing device. It increases the likelihood of hoovering up, and I'm saying the language hoovering up, not to be emotive about this, but just to recognize that we will get and convict more and more individuals by using the gang as a narrative. It becomes the intent. I'm a member of a gang. These are individuals who are members of a gang. And therefore, if one of those individuals commit the offence, then they're all implicated in this because they are one gang. When the jury see 5 young black people in a dock, what they don't see is 5 individuals, but one black gang. It becomes a really powerful tool. And I also think it's disingenuous not to place it on the jury, because the jury are also fed these narratives through a media that says that violence and young black men are hyper-violent and involved in gangs. It's extremely difficult for the jury to discern that within that moment, particularly when we have police officers who are also presenting that narrative that these individuals and these young men and these are involved in gangs. So there's a tension there. So I've always resisted throwing it on the jury because essentially they're being presented this by police officers. I heard something fascinating the other day from some police officers who made reference to the fact that they have a 7-day target to try and identify individuals when there's a homicide. In the absence of charging individuals within that 7 days, then there's a knock on the door. Why are you not progressing this case? So they place pressure on the CPS. The simplistic way of gaining those arrests is, well, just arrest them all. There's 13 of them, there's 12 of them, they're all in a gang. And that sounds really simplistic, but it's really difficult for me to not make sense of what is driving. And that gang narrative is extremely powerful within that resource. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and just to recognize that the presence of gang units within particular communities, often black communities, will drive the everyday behaviors of children. I've read some stuff and written reports where children stood outside a shop. The shop then becomes gang turf. The children go to that, play football on this park. That's their gang territory. It's remarkable how the presence of black and brown folks becomes repurposed and reconstructed through this gang narrative. And I think it's important for us to begin to think on that. And just to the point you made reference to, we have to acknowledge the coloniality of some of this as well. It's remarkable that Jolgi is also passing sentence on the killing of a man in Montego Bay. It's remarkable that we see joint enterprise using Zimbabwe to suppress political activism and to ignore that these are the strategies and tools that are used within colonial settings, I would see as really problematic and a big mistake.